So what is up, guys? Suda the Savage back, and today we are here with NFL Week, Brett Favre, Adam Vinatieri, Derek Carr, Dak Prescott. It is Week 4 predictions. Once again, if you're looking to watch a certain matchup, timestamps are in the description below, so click on that matchup you want to watch. Anyways, last week, once again, I went 11 for 16, so that's pretty good, but as always, there's room for improvement. So anyways, 16 more predictions to get to, so without further ado, let's get this video started. So we're starting off with our Thursday Night Football matchup between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Cincinnati Bengals. Starting off with the Jaguars, yeah, maybe the Trevor Lawrence-Urban Meyer connection is not really working out so far. Anyway, starting off, you lost to the Arizona Cardinals 31-19. Your only highlight was the 109-yard return kick 6 by Jamal Agnew. Other than that, your game was nothing. Anyways, Trevor Lawrence threw for 219 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. Lead rusher was James Robinson with 88 yards and a touchdown, so it's good to see that he finally broke out. Maybe Urban Meyer could realize that he's the number one back instead of trying to have Carlos Hyde do it, which he ended up with 44 yards. Anyways, lead receiver was Marvin Jones Jr., 6 receptions, 62 yards, followed by DJ Chark, 2 receptions, 39 yards and a touchdown. And finally, really like Laviska Shenault Jr., 4 receptions, 48 yards. The defense was battered by the Arizona Cardinals, but it's the Cardinals. I would expect their offense to batter your defense. And you just traded C.J. Henderson to the Panthers for Dan Arnold and a third rounder, so who knows. Anyways, then the Cincinnati Bengals, yeah. I didn't think you could go into Pittsburgh and get the victory, but you did. Joe Burrow threw for 172 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. You didn't allow a single sack, so honestly, that's really like alarm bells should be ringing for the Steelers. Lead rusher was Joe Mixon with 90 yards. Jamar Chase, everyone was giving him crap during preseason. I gave him a little bit of shade, but he had 4 receptions, 65 yards, and 2 touchdowns, followed by Tyler Boyd, 4 receptions, 36 yards, and a touchdown. That was pretty much it. No one else really did much in the receiving game. The defense shut down the Steelers, limited them to 10 points, stopped the rush game, but, it's the Steelers. Like, Big Ben isn't what he once was. But anyways, a win's a win. Anyways, the Bengals are favored to win this one by 7.5. I'm going to say that they win and cover the spread. And now you have our very first Sunday matchup between the Indianapolis Colts and the Miami Dolphins. Starting out with the Colts, yeah, alarm bells should be ringing for you guys. You lost 25-16 to the Tennessee Titans. If your offense could not penetrate that Titans' awful defense, you guys are kind of screwed. Carson Wentz threw for 194 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. The rush game was not really much. Jonathan Taylor had 64 yards, followed by Nyheim Hines with 25 yards and a touchdown. Lead receiver of the game was Michael Pittman Jr. He has really been doing well as the wide receiver 1, as he had 6 receptions, 68 yards, followed by Nyheim Hines, 5 receptions, 54 yards. And then Zach Pascal, 2 receptions, 31 yards. That was pretty much it. The defense was kind of battered by the Tennessee Titans, but it's the Titans. They got a pretty strong offense. Anyways, then the Dolphins. Yeah, I'm not very impressed with how you play. I mean, you kept it close. Jacoby Brissett did a great job, threw for 215 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. Lead rusher was Myles Gaskin with 65 yards. Jacoby Brissett, he had 37 yards and a touchdown that sent the game to overtime. So in the clutch, Jacoby was okay. But honestly, that bubble screen that you had that led to a safety, I just don't know what the hell you were thinking on that. Lead receiver was Mike Gesicki, 10 receptions, 86 yards, followed by Jalen Waddle, 12 receptions, 58 yards. Then Devontae Parker, he had 4 receptions for 42 yards. Will Fuller had 3 receptions, 20 yards, but he did have the 2-point conversion, which sent the game to overtime. So that's pretty good. The defense just could not handle the Raiders. Like, that Raiders offense was pretty strong. The passing game, you guys got scorched on, but you also got scorched by Peyton Barber. That's also a problem. Anyways, Dolphins are favored to win this one by 1.5, and is Jacoby Brissett going to get revenge of the Colts? Well, I love Jacoby Brissett. I'm going to say that the Dolphins win and cover the spread. And now you have our very next matchup between the Tennessee Titans and the New York Jets. Starting out with the Titans, you beat the Colts 25-16. It was kind of a weird game. Anyways, Ryan Tannehill threw for 197 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 picks. The preseason hype for him was pretty high, and he hasn't really been living up to it as much, so hopefully he can produce a little bit more. Anyways, Derrick Henry was also your lead rusher with 113 yards. King Henry is here to stay. Anyways, lead receiver was not Julio Jones or A.J. Brown. It was Westbrook with 4 receptions, 53 yards, and a touchdown. Derrick Henry, Julio Jones followed up, 3 receptions, 47 yards. Then Derrick Henry, 3 receptions, 31 yards. A.J. Brown really got nothing going. He had no receptions that game. Nothing. The defense did stop the Indianapolis Colts, but the Colts are kind of a weak offense. But for your defense to finally show up a little bit, I mean, it's just a relief for you guys. Just take it and run. And then the New York Jets, yeah, you guys are kind of screwed. Zach Wilson, not living up to that number 2 pick. Threw for 160 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 picks, but it's against the Broncos. They got a pretty strong defense, so, I expected him to struggle, but not that bad. Lead rusher was Michael Carter with 24 yards, and, there's really no one I can credit on offense. The only one I can credit is Corey Davis, 5 receptions, 41 yards, and that's it. The defense, scorched by the Broncos. Nothing was good from the Jets this game. The Jets are just so bad this year. I did not think Zach Wilson would be as bad as he was. I thought he was just going to kind of be average or slightly below. I don't know. But anyways, Titans are favored to win this one by 7.5. I'm going to say that they win and cover the spread. And now you have our very next matchup between the Detroit Lions and the Chicago Bears. Starting out with the Lions, you got screwed last week. Lost 19-17 to the Baltimore Ravens. Kept that game pretty close. You guys have been keeping games very close all season, so I've been very impressed with that. Considering your expectations. Anyway, starting off, Jared Goff threw for 217 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. Followed up with DeAndre Swift, ran for 47 yards and a touchdown. Then Javonte Williams with 42 yards and a touchdown. Jamal Williams. Lead receiver was Khalif Raymond, 6 receptions, 68 yards. And then DeAndre Swift, 7 receptions for 60 yards. Darren Fells, 2 receptions, 35 yards. And that was pretty much it. The defense limited the Baltimore Ravens as much as possible, but before Justin Tucker kicked that 66-yard field goal, the delay of game call that was missed completely screwed you guys. There's no way Justin Tucker would have kicked it from 71 yards out. And then the Chicago Bears. That was an embarrassment last week. Justin Fields, in his first start, threw for 68 yards. He was sacked 9 times, which cost him 67 yards. So technically, you guys had 1 net passing yard. You can't be doing that. The offensive line is nothing. Matt Nagy just doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't even know who's going to start this week between Dalton, Foles, and Fields. I wouldn't even know who to start, but Matt Nagy is hanging by a thread. Lead rusher was David Montgomery of 34 yards, but come on. You guys had nothing going on with your O-line. Lead receiver, Allen Robinson, 2 receptions, 27 yards. Then Dave Montgomery, 2 receptions, 21 yards. No one else I could talk about. The defense was scorched by the Cleveland Browns rush attack, but it's the Browns. I would expect that. And so the Bears are favored to win this one by 3, but here's my bold take for the week. The Lions are going to win this game, and with the Lions' victory, Matt Nagy's shown the door. I'm saying Matt Nagy is going to get axed after this game if the Lions win, and the Lions are going to win. And now you have our very next matchup between the Cleveland Browns and the Minnesota Vikings. Starting off with the Browns, you beat the Bears, but the Bears are kind of imploding right now. Anyways, Baker Mayfield had a solid game, threw for 246 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. Lead rusher was Nick Chubb with 84 yards, but Kareem Hunt, he was the main guy as he had 81 yards and a touchdown, and he was also second in receiving, because first in receiving was Odell Beckham Jr. He had a good return, 5 receptions, 77 yards, but back to Kareem Hunt, he had 6 receptions for 74 yards. He was a fantasy god that day. Any Nick Chubb owners really just hated him, and Kareem Hunt, people who had him just loved him. Anyways, then followed up Donovan Peoples-Jones, 2 receptions, 39 yards, and that was pretty much it. The defense, you sacked Justin Herbert 9 times, and Myles Garrett on one play showed that he's literally not human. Anyways, then the Minnesota Vikings, good win last week. Good win over the Seattle Seahawks. I had the Seahawks winning, but guys pulled out the W. Anyways, Kirk Cousins threw for 323 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. You didn't have Dalvin Cook, but Alex Mattinson, he ran for 112 yards. So a good performance by him, even though the Seahawks defense is kind of crap. Anyways, Justin Jefferson was your lead receiver, 9 receptions, 118 yards and a touchdown, followed by Tyler Conklin, 7 receptions, 70 yards and a touchdown. Mattinson had 59 yards, and then Adam Thielen, 6 receptions, 50 yards and a touchdown. The defense had a little bit of trouble with the Seahawks in the first half, but the second half, you completely locked them down. But that's kind of a Seahawks trend where they just kind of check out the second half. But anyways, win's a win, and I said whoever loses last week's game was screwed, so you didn't get screwed. So good for you. Anyways, but the Browns are favored to win this one by 2, and yeah, give me the Browns, they win and cover the spread. And now you have our very next matchup between the Washington football team and the Atlanta Falcons. Starting out with the football team, alarm bells should be ringing. I'll get into that in a second. But anyways, Taylor Heineke threw for 212 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Did not look as lethal as he did in the game against the Giants and in the wildcard game. But, is what it is. Lead rusher was Antonio Gibson with 31 yards, but he was also your lead receiver with 1 reception for 73 yards and a touchdown. It was a screen pass. So, anyways, followed it up with Scary Terry. He had 4 receptions, 62 yards. Then Logan Thomas, 4 receptions, 42 yards, and a touchdown. But why did I say alarm bells should be ringing? That defense, holy crap, it got lit up by the Bills. And like, it's been a trend this season where your defense has not played up to that top 3 hype that everyone was saying. I saw a few people who were saying the football defense was going to get exposed this year, and they were right. But not many people were saying that, so you guys got to fix that defensive situation because it could screw you over of winning the worst division in football. And then the Falcons, man, you got lucky to beat the Giants, but the Giants played like absolute crap. Like, both teams played terribly, but one team had to win, and it was the Falcons. Matt Ryan threw for 243 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Lead rusher was Mike Davis with 50 yards. Lead receiver was Cordarrelle Patterson, 6 receptions for 82 yards, followed by Calvin Ridley, 8 receptions for 61 yards. Kyle Pitts only had 35 yards, and the 2 receiving touchdowns were by Lee Smith and Zacchaeus. I don't even... I probably botched his last name pronunciation, but it's whatever. The defense was able to stop the New York Giants, but it's a Daniel Jones-led Giants. You're not really gonna do that well. I mean, Saquon did have a decent day against you, but you still got the win, even though it was a super sloppy game. The football team, they're favored to win this one by 1.5, and I'm just gonna say, football team's gonna have a rebound game. They're gonna win and cover the spread. And now you have our very next matchup between the Houston Texans and the Buffalo Bills. Starting out with the Texans, Davis Mills making his first NFL start was okay. Threw for 168 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. Lead rusher was Mark Ingram with 21 yards, and yeah, the rush game was kind of non-existent for you guys. Lead receiver was Brandon Cooks. A lot of people were saying he was going to really produce this year. I was just kind of concerned because I wasn't sure how well Tyrod Taylor or Davis Mills was, but Brandon Cooks is the only weapon you have on offense. He had 9 receptions, 112 yards, so a good performance by him. Followed up with Jordan Atkins, 4 receptions, 32 yards, and then Anthony Miller was your only guy with a touchdown as he had 4 receptions for 20 yards and the 1 touchdown. The defense got completely scorched by Sam Darnold. Christian McCaffrey wasn't even playing. He missed most of the game with an injury, and he's going to be out for a few weeks. So was Chuba Hubbard, who got some damage in. But anyways, defense doesn't look good. And then the Buffalo Bills, easy win for you over the football team. Josh Allen, after 2 rough weeks, he rebounded with 358 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. Lead rusher was Zach Moss with 60 yards, followed by Devin Singletary with 26. Lead receiver was Cole Beasley, 11 receptions, 98 yards, followed by Emmanuel Sanders, 5 receptions, 94 yards, and 2 touchdowns, followed by Diggs with 62 yards. And then receiving touchdowns were also by Dawson Knox and Zach Moss. And Dawson Knox had a dirty touchdown catch. It was absolutely disgusting. The defense was able to silence the football team. It stopped the rush game. And outside of the Antonio Gibson screen touchdown, you did well against the pass game. So good for you guys. The Bills are favored to win this one by 16.5. That is already the biggest spread of the season. And I'm going to say that they win and cover this. And now you have our very next matchup between the New York Giants and my boys in the New Orleans Saints. Starting out with the Giants. Ooh, that was a bad game you had against the Falcons. It was a completely sloppy game, and you were the losers of it. Daniel Jones threw for 266 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. Saquon Barkley ran for 51 yards and finally got his rushing touchdown, so good for him. Followed it up, lead receiver was Kenny Golladay, 4 receptions, 64 yards, followed by Johnson as he had 51 yards, and then Saquon Barkley with 43 yards. The defense, it held the Falcons for as long as possible, but it was just a slot fest by both sides. And of course, but the defense bended on the final drive as the Falcons were able to kick the game-winning field goal. So not a good showing for you to start the season. And then the Saints, against the Patriots, it was a good rebound game. Jameis Winston, I'm still concerned about him being the number 1 QB. Threw for 128 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. I need to see him get at least 250 yards in a game and not make one, a blind, terrible throw that's classic Jameis. But lead rusher was Alvin Kamara with 89 yards, followed by Taysom Hill with 32 and a touchdown. Lead receiver was Marquez Callaway, 4 receptions, 41 yards and a touchdown. I kept saying I'm waiting for the breakout game, and it kind of came. But Sean Payton, I don't think, fully trusts Jameis Winston to throw the ball more, but I think maybe in a couple of weeks, or maybe even this week, Jameis can finally break out. Same with the rest of the receivers. Then Deontay Harris, 3 receptions, 31 yards, and then Alvin Kamara, 3 receptions, 29 yards and a touchdown. The defense made Mac Jones' life a living hell, completely silenced the rush game, picked him off 3 times. Sure, we gave up a couple of touchdowns, but the defense, they did well, and the Saints pulled out the victory. Anyways, but we're favored to win this one by 8, so yeah, give me the Saints that they win and cover the spread. And now you have our very next matchup between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. The main narrative I see with this is the two teams that Andy Reid was the head coach for. Because don't forget, he was the head coach for Philly before he went to Kansas City. Anyways, the Chiefs came off a 30-24 loss against the LA Chargers. People are starting to panic already. Patrick Mahomes threw for 260 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. Lead rusher was actually Clyde Edwards-Helaire with 100 yards, so we had a decent game. Yeah, it was a good game, actually. Travis Kelce was the lead receiver with 104 yards, followed by Tyreek Hill with 56 yards. Then Mecole Hardman, 33 yards and a touchdown. The defense just completely broke against the LA Chargers. That defense is something that I've noticed has really struggled this season, so I feel like that might be that's definitely going to be the Chiefs' Achilles heel for the season. Andy Reid was actually rushed to the hospital after the game. I don't remember what it was for, but apparently he's stable and he's good. So good for Andy Reid. I hope he's better. And then the Philadelphia Eagles, Monday night against the Cowboys. You guys just sucked. Jalen Hurts threw for 326 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Was not his best showing. He was also your lead rusher with 35 yards. Lead receiver was Dallas Goedert with 66 yards, followed by Zach Ertz. Glad he came back. He had 4 receptions for 53 yards and a touchdown. Followed by Jalen Reagor, 5 receptions, 53 yards. And then Quez Watkins, 2 receptions for 46 yards. The defense just completely crumbled against the Dallas Cowboys, even though they actually did get a fumble return for a touchdown by Fletcher Cox. They just sacked Dak Prescott and picked up the football in the end zone. So that was really the only highlight for you guys on defense. Other than that, you guys just got absolutely scorched by the Cowboys. Chiefs are favored to win this one by 7.5, and I'm going to say that they win and cover this one. And now you have our very next matchup between the Carolina Panthers and the Dallas Cowboys. Starting out with the Panthers. You guys are 3-0, but it's kind of a sus 3-0. I mean, you did beat a crippled Saints squad, the New York Jets, and the Houston Texans. So there's definitely a whole lot of asterisks next to being 3-0. Same with the Denver Broncos, but I'll get to them later. Starting off, Sam Darnold threw for 304 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. Lead rusher was Chuba Hubbard with 52 yards, as Christian McCaffrey only had 31 yards. He exited the game with a shin injury, and he's going to be out for some time, so that's definitely going to be a huge loss for Carolina. Lead receiver was DJ Moore, 8 receptions, 126 yards, doing what he does best. Followed by Terrence Marshall, 4 receptions, 48 yards. And that's pretty much it. No one else cracked over 30 yards. The defense shut down the Houston Texans, but it's the Texans. And you did actually have 2 rushing touchdowns from Sam Darnold himself, so that's pretty good. And then the Cowboys, I was impressed with how you played. Dak Prescott threw for 238 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. The rush game was as strong as ever. Zeke broke out with 95 yards and 2 touchdowns, followed by Tony Pollard with 60 yards. Lead receiver was not Amari Cooper or CeeDee Lamb. It was Dalton Schultz, 6 receptions for 80 yards and 2 touchdowns. Then it was CeeDee Lamb, 3 receptions for 66 yards. And then Amari Cooper, 3 receptions for 26 yards. So overall, a good game played by the Cowboys offense. The defense did well against the Philadelphia Eagles. Sure, they gave up a couple of touchdowns, but in the end, they were the superior team. Dallas, their defense is not amazing, but it looks better than it was last year, and Cowboys are favored to win this one by 4.5, and I'm going to say that they win and cover the spread and the hype of the Carolina Panthers. I mean, honestly, though, I think the hype of the Panthers is going to just go down a bit. Not completely in, but yeah, once again, Cowboys win and cover the spread. And now you have our very first 4 o'clock matchup between the Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers. Starting out with the Seahawks, alarm bells should be ringing. I knew that defense was going to be really bad, but a 30-17 loss, yeah, that was pretty bad. Anyways, starting off, Russell Wilson threw for 298 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. Lead rusher was actually Chris Carson with 80 yards and a touchdown. He actually had a pretty good performance. I was impressed with him. Lead receiver was DK Metcalf, 6 receptions, 107 yards and a touchdown. I complained before saying he wasn't doing enough. Well, he did it now, so I'll stop talking about him. Gerald Everett followed it up with 54 yards. And then Homer had 48 yards. Lockett was pretty quiet as he only had 31 yards that day. The defense looks absolutely terrible. And also your offense has a thing where it shows up and produces in the first half, then checks out in the second half. So you cannot be doing that, especially with how your defense has been. And then the 49ers against the Packers, that was a close game. Even though the refs definitely threw a few calls in your favor, you shouldn't have won, and you didn't. You lost 38-20. Jimmy Garoppolo threw for 257 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. Lead rusher was Trace Ramon with 31 yards and a touchdown, and Trey Lance, he had the other rushing touchdown as he only had 1 yard. The rush game was kind of inexistent. Lead receiver was George Kittle, 7 receptions, 92 yards, followed by Deebo Samuel, 5 receptions, 52 yards, and then Kyle Juszczyk, 4, and Brandon Ayuk both had 4 receptions for 37 yards and a touchdown. Kyle Juszczyk had the go-ahead touchdown, but you left 37 seconds on the clock for Aaron Rodgers. Everyone knew he was going to erase that lead, and he did. The defense, got scorched by Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, especially on that final drive where he just does what he does best, come up in the clutch. So the 49ers are favored to win this one, but I feel like this match is just going to be an offensive shootout, and it'll just come down to who's the better QB, and that's going to be Russell Wilson. So give me the Seahawks in this one. And now you have our very next matchup between the Arizona Cardinals and the LA Rams. Starting out with the Cardinals, big win over the Jacksonville Jaguars, although you do have a couple of asterisks next to you for being 3-0. Like, really, I think you should be 2-1 because you beat the Vikings when they missed the game-winning field goal. So, honestly, there's a couple of asterisks to you being 3-0. But anyways, Kyler Murray threw for 316 yards, no touchdowns, and a pick. But lead rusher was James Conner with 43 yards and 2 touchdowns. But Kyler Murray had the only other rushing touchdown as he had 19 yards on the ground. Lead receiver was actually A.J. Green, 5 receptions, 112 yards, followed by Christian Kirk, 7 receptions, 104 yards. And then Chase Edmonds, 7 receptions for 49 yards. That was pretty much it. The defense did a good job against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and when Matt Prater set up for a record attempt 68-yard field goal, he missed it, and then Jamal Agnew returned it for a kick 6. So, that was like the only negative against you, but you got a pick 6 off Trevor Lawrence to make up for it. So good job, guys. And then the Rams, this team is legit. Like, I knew they were going to have a statement win last week. I knew it. I called it. Matt Stafford threw for 343 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. Being in LA, that's just the perfect scenario for him. Lead rusher was Sony Michel with 67 yards. Lead receiver was Deshaun Jackson, 3 receptions for 120 yards and a touchdown. But the favorite target for Matt Stafford is clearly Cooper Kupp, 9 receptions, 96 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Van Jefferson had 4 receptions, 42 yards, and then Tyler Higbee, 5 receptions, 40 yards, and a touchdown. The defense limited Tampa Bay for a while, and yeah, sure, Tampa definitely got some points at the end of the game in garbage time, but you completely controlled this game. So good, huge statement win for you guys. Rams are favored to win this one by 5, and I'm going to say that they win and cover the spread. And now you have our very next matchup, a rematch of Super Bowl 45 between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Green Bay Packers. Starting off with the Steelers, that was not a good showing that you had against the Bengals. The offense was just completely stale in a 24-10 loss. Ben Roethlisberger threw for 318 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. You have no rushing game. I mean, Najee Harris, he had 40 yards on the ground, but he made up for it with 14 receptions for 102 yards. So good on him, but you gotta give it. But the O-line is just absolutely terrible. Chase Claypool followed it up with 9 receptions for 96 yards. And McLeod had 3 receptions, 33 yards, and that was pretty much it. The defense was absolutely ineffective against the Bengals. You did get a pick off Joe Burrow, but you didn't sack him once. If you're not getting a sack off that Cincinnati O-line, it's panic time, and it is panic time for the Steelers. And then the Green Bay Packers, as much as the refs tried to screw you over, you pulled out a 38-28 victory over the 49ers. Rodgers threw for 261 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Lead rusher was Aaron Jones with 82 yards and a touchdown, followed by Devontae Adams, 12 receptions for 132 yards and a touchdown. Then Marquez Valdes-Scantling, 3 receptions, 59 yards and a touchdown. And then Alan Lazard, 1 reception, 42 yards. The defense had a good start against the 49ers, but fell to them late. You gave up the go-ahead touchdown with 37 seconds, but once again, like I said in the 49ers bit, I knew Rodgers was going to complete that comeback. 37 seconds and no timeouts to him, that's an eternity. And he did complete that. And the Packers are favored to win this one by 6.5, and I'm going to say that they win and cover the spread. And now you have our very next matchup, a rematch of the 2012 AFC Divisional game between the Baltimore Ravens and the Denver Broncos. If you don't remember this matchup, go look it up on YouTube right now. I'll link it in the description below. It was one hell of a match. Anyway, starting out with the Ravens, you got lucky as hell to win last week. It should not have even been a competition. It was a 19-17 victory. Lamar Jackson threw for 287 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. He also ran for 58 yards, so that was pretty good. Lead receiver was Mark Andrews, 5 receptions, 109 yards, followed by Sammy Watkins, 4 receptions for 68 yards. And then Hollywood Brown, 3 receptions, 53 yards, and he actually dropped 3 passes in the end zone, so you can't be doing that, Hollywood Brown. His hands are just so goddamn inconsistent. The defense, they shut down the Lions, but it's the Detroit Lions, and when Justin Tucker kicked the 66-yard game-winning field goal, right before it, there was a massive delay of game penalty that the refs just missed. So, you shouldn't have won that game. And even though you won it, take it and run. And then the Denver Broncos, you're 3-0, But you beat the Giants, Jets, and Jaguars. A lot like the Panthers, it's a highly suspect 3-0, even though the defense has been lighting it up. Anyways, Teddy Bridgewater threw for 235 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. Lead rusher was Melvin Gordon with 61 yards and a touchdown, followed by Javonte Williams, 29 yards and a touchdown. Lead receiver was Tim Patrick with 98 yards, and then Cortland Sutton with 37 yards. I think you guys did lose KJ Hamler for the whole season, so that's definitely going to be something that hurts the receiving game. The defense shut down the New York Jets, but it's a Zach Wilson-led Jets. And it's just the Jets in general. It doesn't matter who it's led by. You shut them down. And even though the Broncos are favored to win this one by 1, give me the Ravens. I think they're going to bounce back after a suspect win over the Lions and beat the suspect 3-0 Denver Broncos. And now you have our Sunday Night Football matchup, the most storied game of the year between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the New England Patriots, the return of Tom Brady to New England, and also Rob Gronkowski. But it's going to be completely overshadowed by the return of Brady. Anyways, against the Rams last week, the Bucs were completely ineffective, lost 34-24. Tom Brady threw for 432 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. So, yeah, that was a pretty strong performance by him. And he also was your lead rusher with 14 yards and a touchdown. So that's kind of depressing for Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette. A lead receiver was Mike Evans, 8 receptions, 106 yards, followed by Chris Godwin, 6 receptions, 74 yards. Tyler Johnson, 3 receptions, 63 yards. Then Gronk, 4 receptions, 55 yards. That was pretty much it. The defense was just completely scorched by the LA Rams, but it's a Matt Stafford-led Rams. He's just a new man in that offense, on that team. So honestly, I expected him to have a big game over you. And then the Patriots, against the Saints last week, you guys were just a complete mess. Mac Jones threw for 270 yards, 1 touchdown, and 3 picks. 2 of them were on him, and the pick 6 that he threw was just an awful, awful play by Jonnu Smith. So 2 picks were on Mac Jones. He was also your lead rusher with 28 yards, and then Damian Harris had 14 yards. Like I said, I expected your rush game to be completely ineffective against the Saints. Lead receiver was actually Kendrick Bourne, 6 receptions, 96 yards and a touchdown, followed by Jacoby Myers, 9 receptions, 94 yards, and then Hunter Henry, 5 receptions, 36 yards. The defense couldn't stop the Saints' rush game. Yeah, you limited Jameis Winston to 120 yards, but it's Winston. The Saints don't fully trust him. I don't fully trust him yet, so I'm not shocked that you stopped the pass game or limited them, but you couldn't stop the rush. Anyways, the Buccaneers are favored to win this one by 6.5. I'm going to say that they win and cover the spread. And now you have our Monday Night Football matchup between the Las Vegas Raiders and the LA Chargers. Starting off with the Raiders, and you're also a suspect 3-0 team, so wow, that's, yeah. Anyways, starting off with Derek Carr, threw for 386 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. He is playing very well in the first few games this season. See if it can continue. A lead rusher was not Kenyon Drake. And of course, Josh Jacobs was inactive, so it was Peyton Barber, 111 yards and a touchdown. So that's definitely a huge concern for Drake and Jacobs. Anyways, lead receiver was Bryan Edwards, 3 receptions, 89 yards, followed by Henry Ruggs, 4 receptions, 78 yards. Then Hunter Renfrow, 5 receptions, 77 yards and a touchdown. And then finished that off, Darren Waller, 5 receptions for 54 yards. So once again, like I said last week, Derek Carr's done a great job at spreading the ball around, and that's definitely something that I can respect. That he's not just going straight to Darren Waller, that he's able to make it work with everyone else. Anyways, the defense had trouble against the Miami Dolphins, but you pulled out a victory in overtime, and it was pretty close. Anyways, and then the Chargers, you went into Arrowhead, won 30-24 in a huge upset victory. Anyways, Justin Herbert had an excellent game, threw for 281 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks, followed by Austin Eckler. He was your lead rusher with 55 yards. Lead receiver was Mike Williams. He had 7 receptions, 122 yards, and 2 touchdowns, followed by Austin Eckler, 52 yards and a touchdown. Then Keenan Allen had 50 yards and a touchdown. The defense was limited the Chiefs as much as possible, got 2 picks off Mahomes, but the game-changing moment was the 4th and 9 with about a minute 20 to go, where the Chargers went for it, got the incomplete pass, but was able to pull a flag for PI. So bold call by Brandon Staley, but it worked out. Good for you guys. Good for pulling out a victory over the Chiefs. And of course, the Chargers with a victory over the Chiefs, favored to win this one by 3.5. I'm going to say that they win and cover the spread. And that is going to wrap up my video today. Thank you guys all so much for watching. If you want to see all my other weekly predictions and my Saints recaps, links to all that will be in the description below. If you want to watch my Saints and Patriots recap, it'll be right here. Make sure you drop a like this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Comment down below who you have as your upset of the week, the lock of the week, and if your favorite team's going to win. Make sure to follow me on Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok at Brendan Suter. Thank you all for watching. Have a great day. Who Dat Nation is
out.